You are sitting at the dealership, and the salesperson turns the screen toward you. The number on it is not the price of the car. It is a monthly payment, $389, and the first thing your brain does is compare that to your rent, your utilities, your other bills, and decide it fits. It feels manageable. It feels like you can afford this. But at no point in that moment did anyone ask you to look at the total, the number of months, or what happens to your budget when this payment stacks on top of every other payment you have already committed to. That is not an accident. That is the monthly payment illusion, and it is the single most common way expensive decisions get disguised as affordable ones. The payment is not the price. It is the price sliced into smaller pieces, and when you evaluate the slice instead of the whole, the cost becomes almost invisible. A longer loan term can drop the monthly number without changing what you owe. A lower rate can shrink the slice while the total barely moves. And every new monthly commitment takes a slot in next month's budget before next month even arrives, which means the real cost is not just the dollars, it is the future cash flow you just locked away. I am Sam from Simply Money, and I have spent way too much time analyzing why people who are genuinely careful with money still end up overcommitted, and it almost always traces back to this one framing trick. If you have ever approved a purchase because the monthly number felt small and then realized weeks later that your budget got tighter without any obvious new expense, subscribe. Because decoding that gap is exactly what this channel does. Today I'm going to walk you through a 3-part framework for seeing through the monthly payment illusion before it locks in. Let me start with the math they hope you never run. Go back to that dealership screen, $389 a month. The salesperson says it fits your budget, and in the moment it probably does, because you are comparing it to rent, insurance, groceries, and the other bills you already know. But here's the math they hope you never run, that $389 is based on a 72-month loan, 6 full years. Multiply the payment by the number of months and the total comes to just over $28,000. And that is before you count the interest built into the rate. The actual car might have had a sticker price closer to $25,000, but by the time you finish paying, you have spent several thousand more than the vehicle was listed for. The monthly number made it feel like a $25,000 decision. The calendar made it a $28,000 commitment. That gap is the illusion at work. Now compare 2 versions of the same car at the same dealership. Option 1 is $389 a month for 72 months. Option 2 is $465 a month for 60 months. The first payment is lower, and most people's instinct is to pick it because it leaves more room in the monthly budget. But the total on option 1 is about $28,000, and the total on option 2 is about $27,900. The difference in total cost is almost nothing. But option 2 gets you out of the loan a full year sooner, which means 12 months where that $465 is back in your budget instead of locked away. Lower monthly did not mean cheaper. It just meant longer, and longer means more months where that payment is sitting on your cash flow, blocking every other thing you might want to do with that money. This is the mechanism that makes the illusion so sticky. Every new monthly payment does not just cost you money. It takes one slot in next month's budget before next month even arrives. And the problem is that these slots stack. You already have rent or a mortgage, you have utilities, you have insurance, you might have a phone payment, a subscription bundle, maybe a gym membership on auto pay. Each one felt small when you approved it, but lined up together, they form a wall of recurring obligations that leaves less and less room for anything that is not already scheduled. The monthly payment is not just a bill. It is a claim on your future flexibility. And once it is locked in, it sits there every single month until the term ends or you pay it off early. Here's where this moves beyond the dealership because the trick is the same whether it is a car, a phone, furniture, or a subscription stack. Say you upgrade your phone through a monthly installment plan. The screen says $36 a month for 36 months. That does not feel like a big purchase. It feels like a rounding error on your phone bill. But 36 times 36 is $1,296. And if you are trading in every 3 years, that cost repeats on a cycle. Now add the streaming bundle at $22, the cloud storage at $10, the music service at $11, and a fitness app at $15. Individually, none of those feels like a financial decision. Together, they are about $94 a month, which is over $1,100 a year, and most of them will keep drafting until you actively stop them. The payment framing makes each one feel tiny. The calendar makes the total large, and the autopay makes it invisible. Now here's the part that changes how you read all of this. You might be thinking, if I can afford the monthly payment, the purchase is affordable, and what is wrong with spreading costs out over time? That instinct is not unreasonable. Spreading a cost over months is sometimes the only practical way to pay for something you need. But affordability is not just about whether the payment clears this month. It is about what that payment prevents next month and the month after, and every month until the term ends. A $400 monthly car payment does not just cost $400. It also blocks $400 of future saving, emergency coverage, debt payoff, or investment every single month for 5 or 6 years. The real question is not, can I cover this payment? It is, what does this payment cost me in options I no longer have? Think about two people earning the same income. One has locked in a car payment, a phone installment, a furniture plan, and a few subscriptions that total about $700 a month in recurring commitments beyond housing and basic bills. The other drives a paid-off car, owns the phone outright, and runs about $200 a month in subscriptions and services. Same paycheck, but the second person has $500 a month of uncommitted cash flow that the first person does not. Over a year, that is $6,000 of flexibility, which is enough to build a meaningful emergency fund, start a retirement contribution, or absorb a surprise without borrowing. The first person is not reckless. They just said yes to several monthly payments that each felt small, and the stack quietly consumed the margin. So here is the 3-part filter, the opening promised. Before you agree to any new monthly payment, run these 3 checks. First, multiply the payment by the number of months. That is the real price. And if it feels different from the monthly number, the framing was doing work on you. Second, ask what the same purchase would cost if you paid in full or on a shorter term. If the monthly version costs more in total, the lower payment is not savings. It is a fee for the convenience of spreading it out. Third, add the new payment to every other recurring obligation you already have and compare that total to your monthly take-home pay. If the committed total is already eating most of your income, the new payment is not fitting into your budget. It is finishing off your margin. And here is how those 3 checks apply differently depending on where you are right now. If you are someone whose recurring commitments already consume most of your take-home pay, the highest leverage move before adding anything new is usually auditing the stack you already have, because canceling or renegotiating one existing obligation can free up more room than any amount of daily spending discipline. If your recurring commitments are moderate, but you have no real cash buffer, adding a new payment is not just a budget question, it is a fragility question, because one unexpected expense on top of a fully committed budget puts you straight into borrowing. And if your commitments are low and your buffer is solid, you are in the rare position where a new monthly payment actually is a low-risk decision. But even then, the filter still matters, because the total cost and the term length will tell you whether the monthly version is costing you more than paying up front or on a shorter timeline would. The decision rule is this: do not compare payment to payment. Compare real price to real price, total to total, and committed cash flow to uncommitted cash flow. The monthly number is the slice. The total is the cost, and the margin you have left after every payment is the only number that tells you whether you can actually afford what you just agreed to. You're not bad at budgeting because your money disappears every month. You're living inside a stack of monthly commitments that each looked harmless on the day you said yes, and the only way to see the real cost is to stop looking at the slice and start looking at the whole. In the next video, I want to show you how to build a 1-page recurring cost map so you can see every monthly commitment in one view and find the single cancellation or renegotiation that would free up the most room.